I make sure that any homes that we sell at top of the market value, that either me or my partner are there for every one of those appraisals, and we are coming in with the comps and information to help give them so they can just have the information to then do their own analysis to understand why is this house right here worth, your house worth 30,000 more than your neighbor's. And we're going through and we're showing them, here's all the updates that you did. And oh, by the way, Mr. Appraiser, you know that one house that sold over here for 123 a square foot? Just so you know, they've had renters in there for the last 5 years, and that house smelled absolutely disgusting. And that's why you'll see why it was on the market so much longer. Oh, and see this house right here that sold for 118 a square foot? If you look online, what you'll see is that home backed up to that busy street, and the road was actually down lower than the house, and so you could actually see the people in there eating dinner, right? And so some of this stuff, I just want to make sure you understand, Mr. Appraiser, so that when you're going through looking at the comps, you understand why is there such a spread of prices. Okay, so we're there stating the case of the price that we have, or also what we'll do is what we do is we'll also bring a copy of the survey. We will bring, if we have a copy of the appraisal where you had a previous appraisal done where they did the measurements, we'll bring that to them so they can have that. I'm wanting to make their life as easy as possible. Because you know what happens is, and I'm not saying that they'll make your house give you a higher value, but I'll tell you what, I'll give you a quick example. I had a house that I had sold and I had listed it for $439, and I thought it would only appraise in the 420s. We got 4 offers on it in the first 2 or 3 days. We had an offer for full price at $440. I had one at $444, I think it was, and one at $450. And then I had one at $417. My seller, what they did is they think that they have the hottest house ever because they had, oh, and also I told the seller they needed to replace their carpet and they needed to put granite in their kitchen, and they didn't do any of that. So for that first 3 or 4 days, the lady, and she's one of those types that says, I told you so. And so she's telling me basically about how much of, I almost got her to spend this money she didn't need to because look all these great offers she got. So what she did though, she didn't want to accept any of those offers until she had the repairs worked out on the one she was buying. So she waited 2 weeks because there was a foundation issue, and she waited 2 weeks. The first 2 buyers, the top one, the ones over full price, they got mad and left. They went and bought another house. The only 2 that were still in the game at the end of the 2 weeks was the full price one and the 417. She takes the full price one. We get an appraisal done, and it appraises at 421 or 422, I think. Okay? The seller would not come down. The buyer would not come up. That deal fell apart. Also, this is an interesting thing. You know, I told you it took 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. She did not get one other offer. Not one other offer in 2 weeks. So she's thinking that she's got the hottest thing ever. Look, I got 4 people.
Right.
But remember we talked before about that fish food and you're dropping it in, and all those 4 people, those are all grabbing it. But once they had time to digest it a little bit and taste it, they realized that this is good. And you know what's funny is the feedback we had now 18 to 20 something showings, and I'd say at least 40% of them were commenting that the house was dated. So you remember how I told her and she told I told you so? What she found was she never had not one other offer in 2 weeks. So this time when she finished into the 2 weeks, what she did was she put in the granite, she put in the carpet. So then we had 2 more people come in right away. And what happened, this gets into the issue about the lender thing I'm telling you about, is that one of the people came in, they're going to do full price. The other guy came in and said that we'll do 445 or 446, I think it was. And they said, but they were using Bank of America. And I said, we will pick you if you will switch to our local lender. And they did, and it appraised. So I'll tell you what was interesting was that in this particular scenario, the local lender, we had asked the local lender, I said, hey, I don't know, would it ever appraise for 439? Am I just going to keep doing this? He had 2 of the different people that's in their appraisal pool to just look at it for him, and I think they had like 15 in their appraisal pool. He went to 2 of them. One of the guys said he didn't think it would. The other guy thought it was about a 50-50 chance. It just so happens, I swear, that so the guy went to this local appraiser. The guy that actually came out to the house was the one who said it was a 50-50 chance.
Wow.
And so you know what was really cool is that guy's really into fishing, that appraiser. And so we stayed there, and I was actually on the way going on a fishing trip, and so we developed a relationship, and not that the house wasn't worth 440, because obviously it was, a lot of people were going after it. Well, that house appraised. So how did that house go from 422, let's say, to appraising at 446, I think it was, in 3 weeks? Right? Now, part of it is we put in granite and we put in carpet, But even on that, I think all that they only spent like maybe $8,000 or $9,000, right? But I can tell you that the meeting the appraiser, going there to defend your price, helping to make sure that you pick the right lender. It's not just the right buyer. It's also who is the realtor. You know, also on the realtor issue is how is this realtor whenever, because you know your house isn't perfect. I know your house is lovely, but I promise you there'll be a list this long of things wrong. Some very little, some bigger. There's some agents that everything is a major issue, and they are so difficult and they create such drama with their clients because what they're trying to do is prove their worth to their client. Well, part of our naughty list of the agents, one part of the naughty list is, are you doing the higher offers and letting the appraiser pull it down? The other is, it's a naughty list because we have quite a few deals that fall apart because of the inspection, because they're so difficult. Rather than helping their client understand that the reasonableness, they don't understand it, or they are trying to prove their worth, and really what they're doing is they're causing their client to lose houses. So we're helping you to pick the right offer from the right buyer, from the right realtor, from the right lender. What is the three of those combinations? And we're reviewing that with you to make sure that we have the highest probability of closing that deal closing with the person we pick.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I know that kind of got off this a little bit, but I want you to understand there's a whole strategy, just how I have the strategy for the coming soon, and I have the strategy for the open house. There's also the strategy of the right buyer. I promise you, the buyer is not going to be your issue. The issue is only going to be is how do we pick the right one that's going to net you the most amount of money, that's going to and have the least amount of drama for you, because you're going to have enough pressure as you're closing things down, as you're retiring, and you're trying to focus on going to Atlanta.
Right.
Okay? So now, also things that we're going to be doing that you're going to see is that we're going to be creating professional flyers that we're going to have both inside the house and in the and out on the street. Because what we're wanting to do is people are, and the one on the street, we can put price on there if you want. What we recommend is that you don't, because we're trying to drive the buyer to the website where they can see the virtual tour and the Matterport and all these wonderful pictures we have, rather than just seeing a few flat pictures on a glossy and deciding whether or not, well, this house isn't worth $400, right? We want to drive them to it, but it's up to you. Some sellers say, well, I get aggravated when I go around and I don't see prices. We don't really care either way. You just let us know. But what we're doing is out on the street, as people are going by, we're trying to drive them to the website so they can see how great your house looks. And then what they're doing is they're calling me, right, your buyers, so that, because I know your house intimately, and I can help educate them on how much money you've spent to fix it up. And I know you look at whatever, but let me explain to you, these are actually real hand-scraped, nailed-down hardwood floors, and and all the wonderful things that you've done, that you've just replaced that HVAC upstairs, right? Those are all things that they wouldn't really be focusing on, and educating them that if they go buy another house, that'll cost them $8,000 to $10,000. So you got to factor that in, and we educate them on all of that. Okay, so we're going to have flyers both on the street. We're going to have them in the house, if you like, and then also what we do is we send out just listed to the realtor community, because we're wanting them to let them know, hey, just want to let you know that we just put this house on the market, make sure that we draw it to their attention so that if they have any buyers that price range. Also what we do is we do a direct mail. So what we do is we take the 500 homes in the area around you, and what they're doing is what we're letting them know that your house is just gone on the market, because what we're finding is that a lot of times people say, hey, you know, I love Hillcrest. If you see a house come up in there, please let me know, right? And especially in this market where it's become more of a seller's market. So what we want to do is make sure that all your neighbors know your house just went on the market, so they can notify their friends to come over and take a look at it. Mm-hmm. Also, what you'll see as part of the overall kind of brand awareness that we do is that Berkshire Hathaway does a lot of, like on HGTV and a lot of other things in order to just kind of build up the brand. The most important part of all this, though, is more what we're doing specifically for your home, though, right? But also, we are with Berkshire Hathaway PenFed, and PenFed is the third largest credit union in the United States. Okay, you might have seen their ads. Have you seen those ads that say, great rates for everyone? They're really doing a lot of promotion right now. Well, one of the awesome things about PenFed and their focus is right now they're at about 21 to 22 billion in assets, and their goal is to be at 75 billion in assets by 2025. One of the areas that their goals or pillars that create that is through mortgages and growing up this business. and they are a not-for-profit company. And so what they're doing is they're passing a tremendous amount of savings over to the buyers and sellers that use their agents. Okay, so what's going to be happening is that we're going to be able to offer the buyer of your house, if they use PenFed mortgage, that they will actually pay 1.5% of their closing costs, or of the loan amount they'll give them towards closing costs.
Oh, wow.
So let me kind of give you an example. On your house, let's say it's roughly $400,000, and so let's say a title policy, which it's typical for a seller to pay, and we'll talk about that more in a minute, is probably going to be about $2,500. PenFed, if they use PenFed as their lender, PenFed will actually pay that $2,400 or $2,500 that's normally your expense, just because they're buying a PenFed listing. It's pretty cool. So you think about it. Let's say they're borrowing $350,000. They're going to give this buyer roughly $5,000 to buy your house, but your next door neighbor's house, they won't give them that $5,000.
Oh.
So you're already in a $5,000 ahead of your next door neighbor if they use PenFed mortgage, and they do that just as a way of saying thank you to the sellers that use a PenFed realtor, right? And what they're doing is they're saying, hey, if you buy one of our listings, we're going to give you all this money back. And one of those things is the title policy, which that alone will save you $2,500. And we talked about the appraisal issue before. A lot of the expenses that you have, if we can push some of those off to the buyer, then that has nothing to do with the appraisal. So that's like bottom line, real money in your pocket. Does that make sense? But they only get that if they use PenFed mortgage and they buy a PenFed seller's house, which is very, very cool.
Yeah.
So now, one of the big things, Tiffany, is that you see the surveys, and I don't know if you've ever, when's the last time you sold a house?
That's probably about 8 years.
Gotcha. And how was your experience with that agent? Was it good?
It was okay.
How did they do about keeping you informed of what was going on? And
It seemed like I was calling them more than they were calling me. I had a lot of questions.
Right. That is the National Association of Realtors did a study of over 10,000 buyers who had just purchased a home in the last year, and they were interviewing them to see kind of what their experiences were like. And the biggest complaint was communication. Okay, so you can tell in everything else I've talked about with you is that I try to be extremely thoughtful of thinking about what are all the things that I can do to get your house the most amount of exposure? What I can do to help you negotiate the best deal for your home and all these other things? Well, the other part of that is I really took to heart this whole communication thing. So what we did was, me and my assistant, is that we make sure that every single week we call you, every week. And either I will call you, and usually what happens is that I'll call you one week, and then Cynthia will call you the next week. And what we're sharing with you is any new homes that have come on the market, what's gone under contract, reviewing the feedback, reviewing if we need to make any adjustments to the condition of your home or the price, etc. That's what we're doing with you every single week, okay? And also what we're doing for you is we always want you to be aware of what's going on in the market. So when we very first list your home, we're actually going to set you up to get a list of all the homes that kind of fit into the profile of maybe what a buyer who would buy your home would also be looking at. And you're going to see a list of all your competition. And then every time one of those houses go under contract or a new home enters the market you'd be competing against, you're going to be notified immediately, hey, I just got another competitor, or hey, one of my competitors just got an offer, they just beat me, right? And then obviously the question is why? Right? I'm extremely competitive, and my whole focus is if somebody got an offer above mine, what is different? Now, it might be very logical in something you can see that maybe that they had a media room downstairs and that was what was important to that buyer, right? But there's other things that we need to be looking at. If we kept getting beat the second time, the third time, and then we look at the ones that did get that were winning, and they all had the hand-scraped hardwood floors in these certain rooms and these other houses don't, right? Like one client I went to him and his house didn't sell for like 3 months and he didn't understand why, and he had slate floors. And I told him before, slate doesn't sell as well. And what I showed him was any of the houses that had gone under contract had a minimum of 3 rooms with hand scraped hardwood floors. And when I showed him that, then after I guess by the 3rd month, he finally said, okay, I give. And we went in, and actually on this one, what we did was we offered a $10,000 allowance for new hardwood floors, and we sold the home the next week.
Wow.
Okay? So it's really important for us to always be watching is if somebody else is beating us, why? And really being thoughtful and analytical, and then therefore coming up with a strategy of what we need to do to fix that. Okay? And then from an availability side, there's nothing that aggravates me more than when I try to call someone and leave a message and then they'll call me back. Right? Now this I can tell you for sure. There's a very high probability that when you call me, I'm not going to answer the phone right away. Only because, just like right now, I don't have my phone turned on, right? When I'm with you, I'm totally focused on you. But when I'm done with whatever meeting I'm in, I'm going back through and I'm looking every one of my voice messages and I'm calling back right away. And also Cynthia is checking my messages when they know, like right now that I've got 2 back-to-back appointments. She's checking it, and so if you left a message, she's going to be calling you back saying, "Hey Tiffany, Russ is in an appointment. He'll be done by 4:30. Is there something I can help you with between now and then, or do you want Russ to call you at 4:30, or are you me help you and still have Russ call you? What would you like me to do?" Because for us, we know that communication is critical. And when you have only a few minutes to focus on whatever it is, you need someone to help you get an answer. And we want to make sure that we're always available to you. And the commitment that I have to you is that it'll be extremely rare, if ever, that I do not call you back the same day. It might be 3 hours later. But also what my goal is to make sure that Cynthia, especially if it's up till like 5:30, that she's also checking the messages and calling back and trying to respond and help you in any way possible. Okay. So one of the things that we put in all of our listings, Tiffany, is that you can terminate the listing anytime you want, and you don't owe us a penny. And you saw how much money I'm going to be spending on your home. Mm-hmm. You think about from the stagers to the Matterport to the photographers that are going to come during the daytime, they're going to come at night, they're going to be doing the drones, right? But what I know is that every day I've got to earn your trust. And I want you to know that I know that I've got to earn your trust and respect every day. So because I know that you can fire me if you find out that I'm full of beans and I don't honor what I said, okay? And I guarantee you I haven't been fired very often. And so what I'm going to do, a lot of agents, what you'll see, Tiffany, is they'll put you in a 6-month listing agreement and then you won't hardly hear them from them anymore. Well, they don't care. Now they might care kind of sort of, but you know what? You're stuck in an agreement. Your only option is to take it off the market for the 6 months and then list with someone else, right? Or you just got to put up with their stuff because you're stuck with them. I make sure that, and you'll see in writing that it basically says that you or I can terminate this listing anytime you want and you don't owe me a penny. Okay?
Wow.
And people say put your money where your mouth is. That's doing it. And that just shows you my confidence that all the stuff that I know that hopefully you think sounds pretty impressive and pretty thorough, you'll see that I'm not full of beans, right? That I stand behind what I say. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Now, just to kind of finish this thing up here, one is the overall brand of Berkshire Hathaway and the importance of access to the roughly 4.1 million buyers in the world really associated with either that are directly employees of Berkshire Hathaway or companies that they have a significant ownership interest in, having access to those buyers, because buyers are critical, obviously, because the more buyers we have, the more people that we have that are making offers, the auction-like effect, drive up the price, get the best terms, etc. The other is from the listing preparation of getting your house ready. We talked about the stagers and the photographers and all those things that we're doing. We've talked about the internet marketing that we do through both the Berkshire Hathaway site and then what we're doing through Zillow and Trulia, etc. We've talked about the social media. That explained to you that we've actually got 3 people in our social media team that their whole focus is identifying that target markets and then going out and then marketing your home both through through the coming soons, the open houses, and then the continuation of the marketing and kind of identifying what are the best pictures, are getting the best responses, etc. Then we have the buyer incentives, that 1,500, or sorry, the 1.5% that I was telling you about from PenFed that nobody else is offering, right? That basically gives your house in this example a $5,000 advantage over your neighbors. And then the expert agent, as we've talked about before, you know, kind of what our strategies are to help you find the right buyer, right? It's not finding a buyer, but finding the right buyer. And that's what we're going to be helping you with and kind of holding your hand all along the way. And that you know that at all times that you can hold me accountable, that I'm going to deliver on what I say I'm going to do, or you can fire me. And I know that, and I'm spending a lot of money, and I'm not planning on getting fired, okay? So now one of the things that we need to think about as we look at pricing here in a minute, we look at the comps, is where do we want to kind of price ourselves? If we price ourselves a little bit below market, you'll get more offers, et cetera, and you'll sell faster. We've talked about up front that you have a little bit more of a longer time frame. So I don't think that's the right answer. I think the right answer really should be probably more on being at the higher end of the market, right? And let's just watch it very closely. Okay, so that's what I'm suggesting, and what we'll look at in a minute as we look through the comps and see what different homes look like in relationship to price is I would suggest that we stay on that higher end of the price, and then we kind of make adjustments and come down since we have about a 2 or 3 month window.
That sounds great.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So now what we're going to do is let's start going over the comps and looking at houses. Does that sound
Awesome.
good?
Sounds great.
Great.